fact that this country is ruled by a constitution that affirms the freedom of religion, the freedom of expression, and the equality of all citizens before the law, equal opportunity, and the normalization of the American Muslim image in Islam itself is exactly the mission statement of CAIR Chicago.
The best way to fight discrimination and hate crimes is to try to prevent them from happening in the first place. And the root cause of discrimination is ignorance and misunderstanding.
CAIR Chicago is an advocate for the Muslim American community, not just in Chicagoland, but our neighboring suburbs of Indiana and Wisconsin.
Our mission is civil rights advocacy, so anytime someone calls us with a complaint regarding civil rights, either discrimination or religious profiling or problems at work.
Well, one of the things that we try to do is to educate the community about who Muslims are, what their values are. And so that Muslims are not this foreign thing to them anymore. They start to see them as regular people who do the same things and want the same things out of their lives as anybody else.
Deeply believe that each and every person on earth has a duty to one another to prevent and to address cases where people are treated poorly.
Yaqub family who weren't allowed access to a Chicago public pool facility.
Went up to the window. As we were walking up to the window, the lady working the counter points at us and says, "You guys can't go in."
Investigators found that the only difference between their attire and that of other patrons was that their mother was wearing a headscarf.
The lady pointed at her and said, "She can't go in." She didn't point at me or anything. She said, "She can't go in," and that's when my wife, she really got upset, but what can you do?
The Irshad Learning Center was denied a permit by DuPage County to operate as a religious institution, and we say that their constitutional rights have been violated.
We accommodated the county for every requirement that they imposed on us. After many rounds of brutal denials and rejections, they finally turned us down.
Despite the fact that the building that they had purchased to establish the center was previously used by a Christian group as an educational center, they were denied a special use permit to be able to establish their educational center there.
There was no other avenue for us to pursue our constitutional rights. We had no choice but to sue the county for the action that had taken place.
I really appreciate and I'm thankful. I'd like to personally thank CAIR Chicago for all their efforts and sacrifices that they make to make this a better world and to ensure that that justice prevails.
American Islamic Relations, also known as CAIR, filed a discrimination lawsuit today against the Illinois State Police, and it's filed on behalf of Kifa Mustafa. The state police hired the imam as its first and only Muslim chaplain and then reversed its decision.
Imam Mustafa was appointed as the first Muslim chaplain for Illinois State Police.
And they said, "We heard some articles being written about you in the media, about some associations here and there, and that we cannot have you identify yourself as a chaplain with the state police anymore unless we ask you to do another background check, a thorough, full, detailed one."
And as a result of defamatory remarks,
they revoked his chaplaincy.
And when I requested the reason behind that, they said, "Well, we can't share that with you." That's when I felt that I need to pick up the phone and call CAIR.
So we filed a complaint in federal court.
These are historical times in which we live in, and that's a bit cliche, but that's a fact of the matter. I mean, what we're seeing happening in the Muslim majority world, in the Arab world, in the Middle East, in terms of revolutions that call for democracy and freedom, we as an American Muslim community also are facing a historical turn, confirming the fact that America is for all Americans, and that Muslims are a very important part of the fabric of this nation, just like any other faith community.
There are some 7 million or so Muslims in America who are all peaceful and patriotic and support our troops.
Nina Sharif is a Muslim who flies in and out of her Chicago home.
Muslim American. I direct CAIR Chicago's media relations, so I work with news producers, journalists, and editors who are working on stories related to the Muslim community, and I help them understand our issues, tap into resources, and help them develop their stories.
Our own foundations were built on the ashes of a revolution, and we won our freedom, so we can't help but wish that for other people.
We revamped our media monitoring system this year. This way we can generate reports to assess the coverage of all the major news outlets. This way no article goes unnoticed. Every article that covers the Muslim community we see, and if there's bias, we'll find it.
What brings me to CAIR Chicago every day is our mission. I stand by civil rights advocacy, promoting tolerance and fighting bigotry.
Being here on a daily basis was great because it gave me a chance to scan the news and in an organized way and read through all the news that had to do with the Middle East, Muslims, human rights, all things I'm interested in.
At CAIR Chicago, I help the operations department with office management and event marketing.
I'm from a family of immigrants, so I feel I've kind of been, I've kind of gravitated towards this area of law, and it just feels good to help people, I guess. So.
It makes me feel proud and reassured to know that CAIR is protecting the civil liberties of all religious minorities.
Also, personally, I learned a lot of skills which eventually will take me a step closer to the real world experience. I thought it sounded like a really interesting organization and that it was relevant to what I was studying in school.
They're just an amazing organization that does help not just the Muslim community, but any community, and I love working with them and with all the interfaith organizations as well.
I'm going to be working on media monitoring, so looking at local and major news publications every day, seeing the way they represent Muslims and Islam, and then responding to any content that might be sort of bigoted or derogatory.
CAIR Chicago is helping the Muslim people to fight against the discrimination, just as it goes. That if you want to fight against the discrimination, you have to stand up by yourself.
If you help the United States...
When you call it a Muslim problem,
yes,
you have a problem. Because what you're saying is the problem exists because they're Muslim. Therefore, it's a Muslim problem. That is incorrect logic. The problem is not that they're Muslim, it's that these particular groups of people are extremists. Now, those who are Muslim who are not extremists, well, they're not part of the Muslim problem, are they? So why are you calling it a Muslim problem?
No, they're not part of the they haven't been part of the solution. So it's not a Muslim problem.
We don't fear anyone. We don't fear any entity or individual or organization. The only thing we fear is fear itself. And as such, it's extremely important for American Muslims to understand, and for Americans at large to understand, that the only way forward for all of us is honest, transparent dialogue.